So I worked with Growing Power Incorporated in Chicago, Illinois, and next slide. We were essentially an urban farm that had 3 sites. Our biggest site was 20,000 square feet at Grant Park, kitty corner from Buckingham Fountain, which is, anyone who's been to Chicago, pretty much a premier tourist attraction. We had a Chicago garden at Caprini Green, which is next to an old housing project, and a garden in Jackson Park. We also ran a farm-to-city market basket program, which involved bringing produce into communities all around the city of Chicago, and a youth corps program, which was funded by the City of Chicago After School Matters program, which offered paid internships to teens, and we could teach them about growing food. It was job training. It was really great. And so this was kind of the production end of our office. And then the profit end of our office. We got to sell all of that produce at farmers markets all over the city of Chicago, from the north side to the south side. And we had, that corner is the 61st Market. Those are some of our youth interns working at the Lincoln Park Market. And we also got to sell the top restaurants all across the city of Chicago. We got to work with the Signature Room, which is on the top of the John Hancock, which is a pretty big deal, kind of cool. We were growing over 150 varieties in our gardens, including like Mizuna, black pearl peppers, things I've never heard of or tried until this summer. So it was really exciting getting to work with food and growing it and seeing how that all worked, and seeing how a nonprofit could be a business at the same time, because I've never really seen a model that works like that before. So next. Of course, though, it's, this is what I did, and then this is what I learned. Here's some data from the neighborhoods that I worked in of where our farmers markets were. We were at farmers markets 4 days a week, and all of us interns were working all of those markets. So I think a lot of the data kind of explains itself. Green City was in a really affluent community. We were selling $4.25 a pound tomatoes, hydroponically grown, which to some people in a community like Inglewood means absolutely nothing and cannot justify spending $4.25 on a tomato. So you get people saying, "Are you crazy? Like, I can't afford this. Why are you here?" Which is really hard to swallow when you know why, but it doesn't matter. It's still money. Also, you can see the obvious signs of what was a white community, what was an African American community. Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in the country, so a lot of race divides. Also, something I found interesting was average family size increases as income goes down, which means there are more mouths to feed in communities of color. And average travel time to work increases as income goes down. Do people have as much time to spend at farmers markets? Probably not. So I kind of concluded, I guess, from my dabblings in economics that farmers market produce is a luxury good, kind of associated with its demand goes up as you become wealthier. And it's also tied to something. It's tied to status. It's tied to the fact that there's a specific design or quality to it, which is freshness, which is the fact that it's organically labeled. And so you're paying for all of that, and it becomes kind of a status symbol. And I guess what I sort of was really dealing with was like, if slow food proponents are saying, taste is good, like taste is what's going to change everyone's minds about the food crisis, does everyone have access to that taste, that luxury good? Like, it's not true. You can't convince communities to spend their $4.25 on a tomato. It just doesn't make any sense. So I kind of found then that farmers market customers, get the satisfaction of buying a good because they like the taste. So therefore, like, they can spend the money and keep going and enjoy the taste and be like, yes, I'm helping the food crisis. I'm solving it. It's great, but it's good for them, but not for everyone else. So that was kind of our clientele. Next slide. And here's some pictures of, I think, what people kind of think about when they think of farmers markets. Kind of a lot of white people and like banjo players. I don't know if anyone's been to farmers markets, but there tend to be a lot of banjos for some reason, a lot of violins, acoustic guitars. It's not really a white-friendly space, or it's a white-friendly space. And I've found a lot of the rhetoric around the movement kind of difficult to swallow. in terms of getting your hands dirty. It kind of has connotations to slavery that people don't really think about, because a lot of foodies come in and it's like, oh, people just need to get back to the earth. But, I mean, there's a lot of history here that we're forgetting about. Food deserts, which I'm sure everyone's heard about, this area in a neighborhood that has low access to fresh food. That kind of sounds colonial. Like I found this food desert map of Chicago, and those are the pockets that we're supposed to figure out. We're supposed to solve those. But who's solving it and why? Whose interests or desires are really being met here? Is it the nonprofit side that wants to go in and do something great? But are those communities really wanting that? It's easy to say, oh, we'll build a community garden here, or we'll put a farmer's market there. But if people can't afford it, then it's not good. And if people don't actually want to work in them, it's not good either. I mean, I had to spend like 60 hours a week working at this. Like, I don't want to do this. You know, is it really easy to go in and say, hey, here's a community garden my nonprofit's building, run it now, and this is the answer to your problems about produce. So it taught me a lot, and this is kind of my next slide, is kind of where do we go now? Because wow, I thought I was the biggest foodie ever going into this, and like knew I wanted to do urban agriculture, and then I realized how hard it was, how many layers there were, and you know, we're college students. Like, I can't buy at farmers markets either, and it's like it's really hard to kind of figure out like where's that happy medium where you can care about your agriculture and care about your food and what you're putting into your body. But so I kind of just sort of made this little list of being a sustainable buyer if you can. You know, be a smart consumer. Sometimes if something's in season, it might be the same price at a farmer's market as it is at Kroger. That's something that I definitely learned this summer. With different greens like arugula, it might be actually the same price. You guys should eat arugula. I didn't really eat arugula until this summer. And I think recognizing white privilege is something that's really important. That I kind of had to struggle with a lot with this summer. But again, with the terminology that I was using really made it clear that I've got some privilege that I didn't really know about. And I think, you know, fighting agricultural lobbies and subsidies is really important, but urban renewal and living wages are also really important, and they're not really aspects you all of a sudden tie to food and the food crisis. But I think they're really important to address also. So that was my summer. Thanks again.